In 1968, archaeologists in Norway uncovered remains that proved Vikings buried living humans with their dead. The evidence revealed a practice far more brutal than anyone imagined, where slaves faced ritualistic murder to serve chieftains in the afterlife. The excavation site at Flakstad presented archaeologists with an undeniable truth. Within a single burial mound, they found the skeletal remains of a high-status Viking warrior surrounded by weapons, jewelry, and tools of wealth. But beneath these treasures lay another set of bones, positioned in a way that told a darker story. The secondary remains showed signs of decapitation, the head placed deliberately at the feet of the primary burial. Carbon dating confirmed both individuals died simultaneously, ruling out later intrusions. The positioning was intentional, ceremonial, and chilling in its implications. Thralls occupied the lowest tier of Viking society, stripped of all rights and treated as property to be bought, sold, or killed at will. These slaves came from raids across Europe, captured during violent expeditions or born into bondage through generations of servitude. Not every thrall faced burial sacrifice. The chosen ones typically served their masters intimately as personal attendants, concubines, or trusted household servants. This proximity to power made them valuable enough to accompany chieftains into death. The Vikings believed status in the afterlife mirrored status in life, so a powerful lord required servants to maintain his position in Valhalla or Hell. Ahmad ibn Fadlan, an Arab diplomat traveling along the Volga River in 922 AD, documented what remains the most detailed account of Viking human sacrifice ever recorded. He witnessed the funeral of a Rus chieftain where a young slave girl volunteered to die alongside her master. Over 10 days, the ritual unfolded with systematic precision. The girl was given intoxicating drinks and treated with reverence while preparations continued. On the final day, she was led into the burial ship where elderly women called the Angel of Death awaited. What followed was a coordinated act of violence involving strangulation and stabbing, carried out as mourners beat shields to drown her screams. The Oseberg ship burial of 834 AD in Norway contained 2 female skeletons, one clearly a woman of high status, the other showing signs of a violent end. The secondary skeleton displayed trauma consistent with a sudden, forceful death. Her bones told a story of someone who did not die peacefully. The positioning within the burial chamber suggested subordination, placed to serve rather than to be honored. DNA analysis later revealed the 2 women were unrelated by blood, eliminating theories of familial burial. The evidence pointed to deliberate human sacrifice, mirroring the patterns found at Flakstad and described by Ibn Fadlan centuries apart. Norse cosmology demanded that death was not an ending but a transition to another realm where hierarchies remained intact. Warriors who died in battle ascended to Valhalla, Odin's great hall, where they feasted and fought until Ragnarok. Chieftains who died of illness or age journeyed to Hell, a realm neither punishment nor paradise but a continuation of existence. In both destinations, the dead required the same trappings of power they possessed in life. Servants, weapons, and wealth crossed the threshold between worlds through burial. Without thralls to serve them, great leaders risked entering the afterlife diminished, stripped of the status that defined their mortal identity and their eternal worth. Modern forensic technology has pulled back the veil on these ancient murders with unsettling clarity. DNA extraction from teeth and bone marrow has revealed the genetic origins of victims, showing many came from distant lands across Europe and the British Isles. Skeletal trauma patterns indicate the methods of killing varied by region and era. Some victims show clean decapitation marks suggesting swift execution with sharp blades. Others display fractured vertebrae consistent with strangulation or hanging. The positioning of remains tells its own brutal story. Bodies contorted into unnatural poses, limbs bound with decayed rope impressions still visible in soil analysis, heads severed and placed as offerings rather than attached to their owners. The line between willing participant and condemned victim remains one of the most debated aspects of Viking burial sacrifice. Ibn Fadlan's account describes the slave girl as a volunteer, Yet her intoxication throughout the ritual raises questions about genuine consent versus coerced compliance. Some scholars argue that certain high-ranking slaves may have chosen death to escape the uncertainty of transfer to a new, potentially crueler master. Others maintain that the concept of voluntary sacrifice provided a convenient narrative to legitimize murder. Archaeological evidence offers no clear answers, as bones cannot reveal whether their owner faced death with acceptance or terror. The distinction mattered little to the victims, whose fates were sealed regardless of their willingness. The arrival of Christianity in Scandinavia brought systematic dismantling of human sacrifice traditions that had endured for centuries. Missionary efforts intensified throughout the 10th century, with kings like Harald Bluetooth of Denmark and Olaf Tryggvason of Norway converting and enforcing the new faith through law and violence. Christian doctrine explicitly forbade human sacrifice, condemning it as murder rather than religious duty. Archaeological evidence shows a sharp decline in burial sacrifices after 950 AD, with the practice nearly extinct by 1100 AD. The transition was neither peaceful nor immediate, as pagan communities resisted abandoning traditions tied to their identity and beliefs about the afterlife. Viking human sacrifice existed within a broader medieval world where ritual killing served religious purposes across multiple civilizations. The Aztecs conducted mass sacrifices to appease their gods, sometimes killing thousands in single ceremonies atop temple pyramids. Celtic Druids burned victims in wicker structures as offerings to nature deities. Chinese dynasties buried servants alive in royal tombs to serve emperors eternally. What distinguished Viking practices was their intimate scale and personal nature. Unlike mass ceremonies, Norse sacrifices involved individual servants chosen specifically for their relationship to the deceased. The rituals combined elements of honor and brutality, treating victims as both valuable property and expendable tools, creating a uniquely contradictory practice that reflected the complex social hierarchies of Norse culture. Scandinavian museums now face mounting pressure over how they present the remains of sacrifice victims to the public. These skeletal displays, once treated as mere archaeological curiosities, represent real people who died violently against their will. Indigenous groups and human rights advocates argue that exhibiting these remains perpetuates the dehumanization these individuals suffered in death. Museums counter that physical evidence provides irreplaceable educational value, making ancient brutality tangible rather than abstract. Some institutions have removed remains from public view, replacing bones with digital reconstructions and artistic representations. Others maintain that hiding the evidence sanitizes history, erasing the suffering of victims who deserve acknowledgement rather than concealment. The debate continues without resolution, forcing each institution to balance respect for the dead against the educational mission of preserving difficult truths. The evidence from Flakstad to the Volga reveals a practice both fascinating and horrifying. Thanks for watching this exploration of Viking burial sacrifice. Like and subscribe for more hidden histories and share this story of those whose names history forgot.